halftime to make second half adjustments that allowed 4 total yards in the second half?
Well, I think part of it was we were a little bit playing out of sorts in the first half. Like, guys, the communication and the urgency wasn't where it needed to be. We just kind of more or less calmed them down, said, hey, listen, relax, reset. There were some adjustments, there always is. We handled those, but it was more of just like, hey, let's have our process be our process. And I thought they went out and they were more under control, more calm. The leadership kind of rose a little bit at linebacker. So I was pleased with the progress.
Drake May led the nation in scrambles last year, and a lot of them came after initial pressure. How key is pocket retracing and contain in this game?
It's important. I mean, he's one of the best players in the country, not just at his position, but just in general. And he was always hurting people on the run last year. And part of it was him ad-libbing. Part of it was sometimes he got pressure and got out. But he can throw and make all the throws on the field. His arm strength is off the charts. He's got great size and great vision. So, I think anytime a quarterback who's athletic gets out on the perimeter, and if you don't have pressure on him, it allows them to make plays. It causes your coverage to break down. So, those things are all important for us.
How would you evaluate what Kyler Ball and Devin Eastern did last Saturday?
Well, I thought Kyler Ball had an outstanding game. I mean, I've been here a while. It's probably the best game a defensive tackle's had. He had 2 sacks. He had another one that could have been rolled either way, in my opinion, on the empty hand coming forward, potential fumble. He had another sack that was taken away because of a hold. So when you're a nose guard and you're playing most of your snaps at one technique and you had 2 and were this close to having 4, I mean, that's pretty impressive. He was playing with burst. He was playing with urgency. Devin took a step. We think he has a tremendous ceiling. We think he has the chance to be a really, really great player in the league. He did a good job of addressing blocks and creating knockback and shedding and made some tackles. And, that's the first time we've seen it. We've seen it in practice, but it's the first time it's been in a game, and we want to see it more because he's certainly capable of it. But it was good to see him take that step.
Against Appalachian State, May checked on to runs quite often in that game. Is that something you guys have to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, he has the freedom to make decisions at the line of scrimmage based off of what they game plan for the week. So sometimes he's checking the runs, sometimes he's checking the passes. It's all based off of the pre-snap look. So, those are situations where we have to be able to play our technique, and we got to be able to handle those. Whether or not it's a run or a pass. They're attempting to get into what they think is the best play. So our guys got to be aware of it, and we got to be able to execute. So.
Do you do anything extra this week to empower your guys, knowing that you're underdogs, all the talks about Drake May in this offense, and it's take a second and say, hey, you guys are pretty good too. You can get this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, no matter who we play, we're always looking to go out and play our best game and execute the best we can. So that doesn't change. I think anytime you play against a talented group like them that's got a really good offense and has some of the best players in the country, and you got to go on the road, those are always situations where you just kind of, hey, the guys in the room got to go out. We're here for each other, and we got to go out and play for each other. And I think that's really where it's at. We know what we need to do. We know that this is going to be a great challenge, and I like our players and I like their resolve. So we're going to go out and play hard. And I think we've had 2 good days of practice, and we got to get a couple more and then go down there and play. So.
What have you tried to do to make things easier or more advantageous for the young linebackers to be successful?
I got to tell you, I haven't really limited them that much. They've done a good job with it. I haven't had to say, hey, we're going to simplify, or hey, we're going to take this off your plate, or hey, any of those types of things. They've made mistakes. It hasn't been as clean as I would like, but I think they're doing a good job, and they've taken steps each game. But it isn't a situation where I've been like, hey, we got to really cut back with these guys or take stuff off their plate. I mean, here and there maybe. When you have experienced guys who've played a bunch of football, you're more apt to maybe put a few extra things on. But there's been times in the past where we've had to really limit things based on who the guys were, but not with this group. They've done a pretty good job.
What's your evaluation of the North Carolina
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you find a stable of backs as big as they have. I mean, they're all 5'10 plus, 220 plus. They run downhill, they run behind their pads. I think their offensive line has done a good job of creating holes coming off the ball, being physical. If you would have studied them, which we did, last year coming into the season, you would have said, hey, it's just a throw team who, will run it, at times. But this year, I mean, they've been running the ball very effectively against two good football teams. So, we've got to be able to hang our hat on being able to stop it, because if we don't, they'll just keep handing it off and they'll move the ball that way, and then they'll be able to play action. So I've been really impressed by them.
Joe, I know you're focused on the task at hand, but 2 years ago at Colorado, there was a great Gopher crowd there. What was your takeaway from that? Did you get to enjoy that at all afterwards?
Well, if I remember right, we won and we played well defensively. And I think that, when those things happen, I do remember the guys coming off the field, and I think there was like a barrier that kind of collapsed, whatever. And but the guys were jacked up. It's pretty cool. Anytime you go on the road and there's a contingent of fans and you're able to win, it's always pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool for the fans. And then it's cool for the players too, because you're in a hostile environment, but then when the game ends, that kind of dissipates, and then it's your fans. So I do remember that. That was a cool experience.
How do you look at just scheduling in general? Obviously, North Carolina now, Colorado, Mississippi State, Cal. How do you look at non-conference? I know you're defensive coordinator. But
Yeah.
how do you look at tests like this?
Yeah, well, obviously the decisions are above my pay grade, but it's a chance to go compete against a good program and a good conference. They're a top 25 team. They recruit top 25 year in, year out. It's in a football hotbed and a quality conference. So it's an opportunity to go measure where we are as a program, where we are as a defense against a quality opponent. And I think the guys like the challenge. The players like the challenge. The staff does. Our recruits, like being able to say that, hey, not only do you got the Big Ten game, but you've got a premier game to go compete against someone else. So.
When you look back, where have you noticed the most growth from Devin Williams from last year to this year?
Just consistency in his details with responsibilities in the defense. He was a guy that pretty early, you knew he was strong and you knew he was fast and you knew that he could change direction. But it's like, hey, can he learn the defense and execute the defense the way that he needs to? We found out really early on that he was smart. Like, he was certainly capable of doing it. But then it's just reps. Linebacker, it's a different position. It takes longer sometimes than other positions because it's so reactionary. It's so instinctual. I tell them all the time, you don't see one thing, you see everything. Like, if you're a narrow vision guy, you're not a good linebacker. Like, because you got to see multiple things. Tight ends, you got to see Y-offs, you got to see guards pull, you got to see motions and bump your alignment. That, like, those guys got to see it all, and it takes time to train linebackers. I tell that to Coach Fleck all the time. I'm like, Coach, it takes 2 to 3 years to train these cats, like to get them to be able to play the way we need them to play. And so I think he's on year 3. And he's right where he needs to be, and he's played well. And the cool thing is, I think he's got a lot more. I think he can play even better as he becomes even more consistent. Again, he's got 2 games under his belt, and so I think he's where he needs to be. But if he works hard, there's no reason he can't be a really, really great player for us.
Hey, Joe, going back to Harbaugh, the thing that really jumps out is just how hard he plays.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where it starts with him?
Yeah, I think so. But he plays really hard, and he's always played hard. I think, but as you get more comfortable, number one, in the scheme, number two, you're comfortable with the training that you've put in, the strength training, you become able to play faster. So he's always played hard, but now he's even playing faster and hard. And you combine those two things, and you saw the game that he had. Because he played hard when we saw him on film. That's one of the reasons we recruited him and wanted him to come to Minnesota. And I felt like for the first 7 games last year, he was kind of just a do his job type guy. He was just in his gap. He didn't really make many plays. But the last 3-4 games of the season, you started to see it. And then in my head, I'm like, well, this is going to be the transition now into this year. And you saw it in training camp. You saw it in spring ball. So I was pretty confident that it was going to show up in the games where he was going to start being like a playmaker. And you're seeing it. I mean, he has a great motor, but he's twitchy and strong. And those two things combined, allow you to go out and make plays interior like that. But he's been impressive.
Coach PJ talked about blending the strong passing game you had in game 1 and strong running game in game 2. How do you do that in game 3?
We got to put it all together. We got to be balanced. We got to get the ball to the playmakers. That's the name of the game this week. We talk about the most opportunistic schedule in the country. It starts this weekend with this crew. They're good. They're talented. They're athletic on defense. Great secondary. It's going to be a great challenge for us, as we know. But we got to play balance. We got to be able to get the ball to the guys that are going to make plays, and we have to execute and make the routine plays.
North Carolina's pass rush really gets going when they back people up and generate negative first down plays. With that in mind, how pivotal is early down efficiency in this game?
It's the name of the game every single week. We have to be very, very efficient on first and second down, and that's what we continue to emphasize every single week to the guys. If you're in third and long, third and medium all game, you're going to see the negative results to that. And we've done a good job of being efficient on third down, especially last week. I think last week we were 8 of 13 on third down, and we did a good job of converting. Obviously we have to continue to do a better job once we get inside the 10. But we did a good job, and I think first and second down is so critical. It's the name of the game every single week. A best third down team is being great on first and second down.
Greg, PJ told us Monday that he was on the headset probably more than he's ever been because he wanted to make a point about running the ball. Did you want to make that same point?
Yeah. Well, you win games up front. And if we're not efficient up front with the offensive line and we're not physical and we don't have that mentality, it's going to be hard to win a lot of games, period, whether you're playing North Carolina or whether you're playing a Big Ten opponent, whether you're playing a MAC opponent. You have to play physical and have that certain mentality up front, and I think we did that. We have to have that every single week.
PJ mentioned kind of want to in the red zone, especially tight end. What beyond just effort needs to happen when you get there?
Efficiency. Execution, understanding what the scheme is, everything. It goes every single week. It's like that, and every single week, every single offense in America sits down and their offense changes a little bit in the red zone, and you look at, all right, how are they going to attack you? You think about that. How are you going to be able to attack them? Certain things that you're going to do. You're going to have your offense down there. You look to run the ball. You look to scheme up the pass game. Every offense in America does that. And I think when it comes down to it, you have less yardage to be able to work with. So the decision-making, the precision, the execution has to be at a premium. And if you do that, you usually have success. If you don't, usually the defense stops you. And, ultimately we have to continue to do a better job and change our best from that standpoint.
Just want to follow up on that.
Yep.
What about Brett's role in the red zone?
He's always involved. I mean, that's pretty much a given. His ability and what he can do. He's always going to be in that role where we want to use him down there, but we also want to be able to use Corey. We want to be able to use Daniel. Whether it's Ethan making the decision or we hand the ball off, the best teams in the red zone are, again, they go back to its execution and efficiency.
What about Corey Crooms made you want to bring him over from Western Michigan?
Personality fit was the number one thing. First of all, the first thing you always look for, and when you recruit players to this program, you look for the personality and how they're going to fit with Coach Fleck and how they're going to fit within our culture. And I knew that he was going to be a person that was going to embrace what we demand our players to do. And, what we ask them to do on and off the field is obvious. Obviously, it's awesome because we do a lot of different things to be able to get them to grow as men. I knew he was going to be able to handle that. Secondly, his athletic ability, the way he plays the game, I knew he played it from a physical standpoint. He's a great learner, and I knew he was going to have the opportunity to play in the Big Ten, and he was going to take advantage of this opportunity to take his game to the next level. He has that mentality, and that's what I loved most about him.
And Greg, when the ball kicks off, what's the most challenging part about being a play caller?
First thing I think is staying in the moment. That's the first thing that I think, because you never want to get too high or too low. And secondly is getting the quarterback into the flow of the game. And the best way to think about that is, what throw do you want him to have early that he gets a completion, gets him going. We talk about, between Coach Fleck and I and Coach Simon, we talk about getting into the flow of the game. What is that? How can we create rhythm with the offensive line? How can we get Daniel Jackson involved? Because every single offense looks at it, all right, how can I get my playmakers the ball? And the ultimate guy that you have to be able to get comfortable within the game is the quarterback. And I think that's one thing that makes it challenging, is finding that flow, having success, getting that first down. But ultimately, you sit down on the end of the week and you say, all right, what plays do we feel like we can attack them the best, and what can we do to exploit their weaknesses, and then go from there. And hopefully it sets the guys up to get in a rhythm.
Mark mentioned on Monday that you guys changed explosives from 20 to 25 plays in the offseason and through 2 games. That you've met that threshold. So if that's going to change this weekend, what has to go into it?
I think we've had 8 of 20 yards or more. So I'll say that. The other piece of it is to continue to challenge the guys to meet that threshold. I love the challenge because, when you sit there and you talk about it in the summer, and we met as a staff on it, and you're like, oh, you can get 25 yards. That's easy. It's not that easy. And so it's fun for the challenge to get to it. But I think the guys are excited for that opportunity every single week. They know what our goal is, to be able to do that and create a more explosive offense. And it goes with we put it on the offensive line too, to be explosive in the run game. They play a huge factor in creating explosive plays through the run game, but then also through pass pro. And the receivers know that their role, the running backs know their role. But that's been a big emphasis that we've wanted to be able to do, create explosive plays, and we want to meet that threshold of 25 yards or more.
In reviewing Darius' performance last week, what especially impressed you, and what might have surprised you?
I wasn't surprised at all. I played a part in recruiting Darius, and I know his family upbringing, how he was raised. His auntie's an awesome lady, his grandmother's an awesome lady, and they raise him, the right way. And I know that they were extremely proud of him. Shanika and Miss Carletta, they were outstanding, and through that whole process of recruiting him. And, I was excited for him. I knew he was going to get the opportunity. I just didn't know what the opportunity looked like. I didn't know if it looked like it was 6 to 8 carries. Obviously going into Nebraska, that was the thing that we thought of. And then when Bryce, was in the situation he was in, Darius got put into a bigger role. And when he got into the game, he started rolling and he started playing well. And I was not surprised at all, because he's continued to put stacked days on days in practice of getting better, changing his best. And I wasn't surprised. I don't think anybody in the program was surprised by the way he performed on Saturday, because he's been putting it together in practice every single day.
You guys talk so much about ball security, but Tyler's issues on Saturday, the message delivery even more so.
Every single day we talk about the ball as the program. So it's said every single day. We just overemphasize it, as well as other things. The guys have to hear that message, because if we turn the ball over, we're not going to have the success we want. Turnover margin is the number one key to success, in scoring points and winning games. When you look at it at the end of the day, you're either negative or positive, and we always want to strive to be in that positive turnover margin. And if we do, we're probably putting ourselves in a position to win the football game.
Does this game mean a little bit more to you, being a Carolina guy?
I knew that question was coming. Yeah, it's a cool game for me. I grew up, half an hour from Chapel Hill, and I've been in that stadium as a fan, as a kid, half a dozen times. And obviously when my father played at East Carolina, my mom went to East Carolina. My older sister went to Duke. My little sister went to North Carolina. She's getting married on campus. My wife went to North Carolina State. So we have all these I have all these ties to the area, and I've seen games in Keenan. I've seen him play on the road. It'll be a cool moment for me, but at the end of the day, it's about these guys and how we play the game that week. But I'm excited to be able to get down there because see my family and all that. But at the end of the day, when the ball's kicked off, we have a job to do. Excuse me? With family, friends, my immediate family, extended family. So my parents still live in Raleigh, and my sister still lives in Raleigh and everything. We go back down to North Carolina every summer to visit. So my kids are down there and they know about North Carolina and everything. But this is home. It's just where usually I go home to visit. I'm just taking a random visit in September this year.
Time for one or two more. Ethan was talking about wanting to take the next step with his pocket movement. How do you go about teaching QB those skills?
It's about instincts and feel first and foremost. I don't think you can develop pocket movement. It's one of those things where if a guy's struggling with a golf swing, you don't want to overemphasize certain things with the golf swing because then their swing's just going to continue to get worse. It's like pocket movement. You want to work on certain drills that are going to help him when he's in that situation, but you have to be able to show him, all right, this is what he's struggling with when he's moving in the pocket. Last week he was much better. The week before we showed him some things. Hey, you're moving. You didn't necessarily need to move here. There's no reason to move. And then he got better, and we emphasized it. But it's not one of those things where you want to make him think about it because then when you do get him to start thinking about it, then he's just moving for no reason. He did a much better job against Eastern Michigan, and hopefully he continues to improve in that fashion as well. Ethan did? I appreciate that.
Is that how you describe yourself?
On game day. I mean, as the week goes on, Coach Fleck has continued to say to me, I think there's phases of the years when during the year you can coach differently. In spring ball and training camp, I think there has to be a level of intensity because that's when you're really developing your team. You're developing the mindset of your team. And I've mentioned before, I'm intense by nature. And then when I get to game week, it's about execution. We are who we are. We just have to continue to get better every single day. And at that moment, I have to stay cool and I have to stay calm because as the week goes on, I want the guys to be able to see that, all right, if I'm calm, then I know that the game plan is in the right spot. If they see me as being anxious or nervous, then how are they going to be able to play? How are they going to be able to execute under the pressure of the situation? So during practice throughout the week, I know Coach Fleck has always said to me, hey, when it gets to Thursday, Friday, you really got to be able to take that calmness and composure, and we talk about poise, and keep that going all the way through the game. And then once the game gets here, the guys got to go play. So you want them to be free. You want them to be mentally ready to go every single snap.
All set? Thanks, Coach.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.